There's a very specific feeling. You can't fully describe it, but you know it the moment it happens. It starts somewhere in your chest, then your jaw tightens, your hands might grip the armrest, and then the screen delivers exactly what you've been waiting for. The villain falls, and you exhale. Cinema has given us some of the most brilliantly evil, stomach-turning, infuriating, and terrifying villains ever put to screen. And sometimes, the movie does what real life rarely does. It gives them exactly what they deserve. Today we're counting down the top 10 most satisfying villain defeats in movie history. Not just the deaths, not just the defeats, the ones that felt earned, the ones that hit different, the ones where the movie said, "You've been patient, here's your justice." We're going deep on each one, the villain's story, why they were so effective, and what made their defeat land the way it did. This is going to be a long one. Settle in. Before we start, comment right now. What's your personal number one? I genuinely want to know. And stay until the end of it, because my number one choice, some of you are going to love it, some of you are going to riot. Let's go. Let's start with a man who defines the phrase born into power and completely unworthy of it. Commodus, played by Joaquin Phoenix in one of his most underrated performances, is the son of the great emperor Marcus Aurelius. And Marcus Aurelius knows exactly what his son is. He tells him, right to his face, that he will not inherit the empire. And instead of accepting that, Commodus suffocates his own father with his bare hands while hugging him. That scene is one of the most quietly disturbing moments in mainstream cinema. No music, no drama, just a hug that turns into murder. And then Commodus spends the entire film being exactly the kind of ruler you'd expect from that man. He's petty, he's vain, he craves love he's never earned. He sends Maximus, Rome's greatest general, to be executed. He kills Maximus's wife and child. He manipulates, lies, and schemes his way through an empire he has no right to rule. And through all of that, Maximus survives, becomes a gladiator, fights his way back to Rome, back to the Colosseum, back to Commodus. The final fight is everything. Commodus did a move that says everything about his character, stabs Maximus before the fight, a hidden blade, because he cannot win any other way, and still, Maximus, bleeding, dying, running on nothing but will, disarms him and finishes it. The crowd watches, Rome watches, and Commodus dies in the sand of the arena he used to control. Why is he only at number 10? Honestly, he died too fast. A man that evil deserved to suffer a little longer. But the symbolism of dying in the arena, in front of Rome, after cheating and still losing, that's poetic. That counts. 9 more to go, and they only get more satisfying. Don't touch that screen. Hans Gruber is the reason we have the charming, articulate European villain trope. Before Hans Gruber, action movie villains were mostly just big, angry, and loud. Hans showed up in a tailored suit, quoting Karl Marx and ordering fine champagne, and completely changed what a movie villain could be. Alan Rickman, in his film debut by the way, plays Hans with such cool, effortless menace that you almost forget he's the bad guy. Almost. He's smarter than every cop outside. He anticipated every counter move. His plan is genuinely brilliant. Disguise a robbery as a terrorism hostage situation to distract the FBI while he drains the vault. The only thing he didn't plan for? One barefoot cop from New York having the worst, Dan-esque night of his life, and the defeat itself is cinema history. McClane handcuffs a gun to his back, gets Hans to drop Holly's wrist, and Hans Gruber falls from the 30th floor of Nakatomi Plaza. Now here's a behind-the-scenes fact that makes this even better. Alan Rickman was told the crew would drop him on the count of 3. They dropped him on 1. That genuine look of shock and betrayal on his face as he falls, that's real, that's not acting, that's a man who was actually surprised. And it became one of the most iconic defeat shots in the history of film. Hans Gruber deserved it, and the movie knew exactly how to deliver it. Now we move into more uncomfortable territory, because Calvin Candy isn't just a villain. He's a villain that represents something real, something historical, something America has never fully reckoned with. Leonardo DiCaprio plays Candy as a man who is charming, cultured, and utterly monstrous. He runs Candyland, a Mississippi plantation, and treats human beings as livestock. He's well-read enough to quote French, but twisted enough to use pseudoscience to justify slavery, and DiCaprio commits fully. There's a famous story during the dinner table scene. DiCaprio actually cut his hand on a broken glass. He kept going, kept in character, smeared his own blood on Kerry Washington's face. Tarantino kept the take. That's how deep this character goes. The tension in Django Unchained is almost unbearable. Django and Dr. Schultz are playing a game inside Candy's house, pretending to be buyers while trying to free Django's wife Broomhilda. And for a while it seems like it might work. Until Steven, the head house slave played by Samuel L. Jackson, figures it out and tells Candy. The table explodes. Candy shows his true face. Violent, entitled, furious that someone dared to outmaneuver him. He demands $30,000 for Broomhilda. Schultz pays it. But then Candy insists on a handshake. And Schultz, a man who spent the whole film keeping it together, cannot do it. He shoots Candy dead on his own doorstep. It cost Schultz his life. But in that moment, the audience completely understands. Some men you just cannot shake hands with. Candy's defeat is messy, costly, and imperfect, which is exactly why it works. Good doesn't always win clean, but it wins. We're at number 8, halfway there. The next 3 entries are where this list gets genuinely uncomfortable, in the best way possible. Stay with me. I want to talk about a very specific kind of villain. Not the kind that monologues, not the kind with henchmen. The kind that smiles while they destroy you. The kind that has the system on their side. Nurse Ratched, played by Louise Fletcher in an Oscar-winning performance, runs a psychiatric ward with an iron fist wrapped in a white uniform. She never raises her voice. She never has to. She uses rules, medication, group therapy, and bureaucracy as weapons. She breaks people slowly, methodically, and she enjoys it. R.P. McMurphy, Jack Nicholson, electric and alive, gets himself committed to avoid prison labor. He thinks he can charm his way through, manipulate the system, and for a while he genuinely lifts the ward. He brings life to men who had forgotten what it felt like. And Ratched watches, and waits, and systematically dismantles everything he builds. She uses Billy, a kind, fragile young man, as her ultimate weapon against McMurphy. When she catches Billy with a girl and threatens to tell his mother, Billy takes his own life. And McMurphy snaps. He goes for her throat with his bare hands. The ward erupts. Orderlies pull him off. He doesn't kill her. He doesn't win. He gets lobotomized. And yet, his friend Chief, who McMurphy had spent the whole film trying to reach, smothers McMurphy to end his suffering. And then rips a water fountain from the floor and throws it through the window. And walks out. Free. Ratched's defeat isn't her death. She survives. Her defeat is that her ward walks out the door. And everyone watching knows McMurphy did that. Even from a lobotomy, even from beyond himself, he still won. Okay, Parasite. I need to be careful here because this entire film is a spoiler. If you haven't seen it, pause this video, go watch it. Come back. I'm serious. It's one of the best films of the 21st century, and you should not have it spoiled. Okay, for those still here. Parasite is about class, about the gap between the wealthy and the desperate, and it doesn't give you clean heroes or clean villains. Everyone is complicit. Everyone is surviving. Everyone is a parasite on someone else. The Kim family, poor, clever, and hungry, infiltrate the wealthy Park household one by one. And just when you think the film is a dark comedy about class mobility, a basement door opens and everything changes. The previous housekeeper has been hiding her debt-ridden husband in the Park's secret basement for years. When she reveals this, the film shifts entirely. Now there are 2 desperate families, one house, and secrets that cannot coexist. The climax, in fact, at a garden party, is one of cinema's most chaotic, devastating sequences. Gunsei, the basement man, emerges and attacks. Mr. Park, the oblivious, nose-wrinkling wealthy patriarch, recoils in disgust at a smell. A smell. While a man is dying, and Kitak, the Kim family father who has served this man with dignity, watches Mr. Park treat a dying human being as an inconvenience, and kills him. It's not satisfying in a fist pump way. It's satisfying in a terrible, inevitable way. Like watching a system collapse under the weight of its own cruelty. Bong Joon-ho doesn't let you cheer, he makes you sit with it. And that discomfort, that's the whole point. Top 5, this is where the legends live. I want you to think about what your number 1 is right now, because mine might surprise you. We're not done yet. Keep watching. Let me paint you a picture. April 2019, theaters packed, lines around the block. People who had followed 21 movies over 11 years sitting in the dark, waiting. The year before, Thanos had won. He'd collected all 6 Infinity Stones, snapped his fingers, and killed half of all life in the universe, including half our heroes. The Avengers had failed. Tony Stark retired broken. Steve Rogers sat in a support group. Thor became a depressed hermit, eating chips and playing Fortnite. And then came Endgame. The Avengers assemble a time heist, collect the stones. Hulk snaps everyone back. And just when they think it's over, past Thanos figures out what happened. And he brings his entire army through a time portal to destroy them. The compound collapses. Our heroes are buried in rubble. Thanos sits in the ruins with his sword, calm, inevitable. I am inevitable, he says, and snaps. Nothing happens, because Tony Stark, genius, billionaire, man who started this whole journey, had already taken the stones. He looks at Thanos, bleeding, exhausted, dying. And I am Iron Man. Snap. Thanos disintegrates. His army turns to ash. And in theaters across the world, people screamed, grown adults crying, strangers hugging, a decade of storytelling paying off in one moment. Was it perfect? No. Were there plot holes? Sure. But in that moment, sitting in that seat, feeling that music swell, it was everything. And Tony Stark paid for it with his life, which is exactly why it works. The best villain defeats cost something. I want to step away from fantasy and superheroes for a moment and talk about the most realistic kind of villain on this list, Percy Wetmore. Percy is a prison guard at Cold Mountain Penitentiary, death row, in Depression-era Louisiana. He's not a supervillain. He's not a mastermind. He's a small, cowardly, sadistic man who has a powerful uncle and uses that protection to do whatever he wants. He bullies the inmates. He tortures them. He deliberately sabotages Edouard Delacroix's execution, fails to wet the sponge that conducts the electricity, and watches a man burn alive in the chair, slowly, screaming. It is one of the most disturbing scenes in any mainstream film, and Percy watches with something close to excitement. What makes Percy so effective as a villain is how real he is. There have always been men like Percy, men who find jobs that give them power over vulnerable people, men who hurt because they can, because no one stops them. And then comes John Coffey. John, a massive, gentle, miraculous man on death row for a crime he didn't commit, has the ability to absorb sickness and evil from people. He draws the darkness out of Percy, all of it, and then, instead of releasing it into the air, transfers it into Percy. Percy walks into the warden's office and shoots the informant dead, and then stands there, drooling, completely catatonic. He spends the rest of his life in the very institution he threatened to send others to, trapped, silent, surrounded by the kind of people he once tormented. There is no death, no dramatic fall, just a small, cruel man, hollowed out, living inside his own punishment for the rest of his life. Top 3. We are in the sacred territory now. Number 3 is going to make some of you emotional. I'm warning you now. Number 2 is the heaviest entry on this list. And number 1, Number 1 is the one I've been building to since the beginning. Let's go. Okay, change of pace. I know what you're thinking. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? That's a kid's movie. No. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a masterpiece of genre blending that most people watched as children and then rewatched as adults and said, wait, what? Judge Doom, as played by Christopher Lloyd, is the villain of a noir detective story set in a world where cartoon characters called toons are real and live alongside humans. And Judge Doom has created something called the dip, a chemical mixture that permanently destroys toons. He uses it as an execution method, drops a cartoon shoe into a barrel of it, and makes the audience watch it dissolve, screaming, in what is supposed to be a family film. Christopher Lloyd plays this with genuine horror movie commitment. His eyes, his voice, the stillness. Judge Doom is terrifying in a way that sneaks up on you, and then comes the reveal. Judge Doom gets hit by a steamroller. He should be dead. He gets back up, and his eyes inflate. His voice shifts into something inhuman. Because Judge Doom is a toon, he's a cartoon character who has been murdering his own kind, using the dip, his own invention, as a weapon against the very people he came from. The final defeat, Eddie Valiant turns the dip machine on him, and Judge Doom dissolves, screaming into nothing. It is genuinely frightening, and it is also completely earned. The dip he created for others becomes the thing that ends him. Poetic, dark, perfect. I need you to take a breath with me before we talk about this one. Schindler's List is not an entertainment film. It is a document. It is a memorial. It is Steven Spielberg putting the Holocaust on film so that it could never be called a myth, a rumor, or an exaggeration. And inside that film lives Amon, Goth, played by Ralph Fiennes in what I genuinely believe is one of the greatest villain performances in cinema history. Goth was real. He was the commandant of the Płaszów concentration camp in occupied Poland. And Ralph Fiennes plays him with something deeply, disturbingly human. He has charm. He has moments of self-awareness. He even seems to almost develop feelings for his Jewish housekeeper, Helen Hirsch. And then he beats her anyway, because he cannot reconcile his attraction to her with what he has been taught she is. There's a scene where Goth wakes up, steps onto his balcony, and shoots Jewish prisoners at random, with a rifle, with his morning coffee, as a way to start the day. That scene is based on eyewitness accounts. It happened. Ralph Fiennes gained weight for the role, studied Goeth's mannerisms from footage and testimony. He made Goth so real that Holocaust survivors who visited the set refused to be in the same room as him while he was in costume. That is the power of this performance. His defeat, his trial, conviction, and execution by hanging is shown briefly, without fanfare, without a score. The real Amon Goeth attempted a Nazi salute at his execution. The noose didn't work correctly the first time. There is no satisfaction here in the way we usually mean it. It's not cathartic. It's not a fist pump moment. It's a man who murdered thousands receiving the barest fraction of justice. And that solemn, incomplete feeling is the satisfaction. Because Spielberg is honest enough to say, no execution brings back the dead. Justice happened. But it can never be enough. Number 2, because this is what the list is really about. Not fun, not action. The moral weight of a villain finally being stopped. Number 1, I have thought about this longer than any other entry on this list. Some of you know exactly what I'm about to say. Some of you are going to completely disagree, and I want you to, because this is the one worth arguing about. Here we go. Hans Landa. If you've seen Inglourious Bastards, you already felt something when I said that name. Something between dread and fascination. Because Hans Landa is not just the best villain on this list. He might be the best written movie villain of the 21st century. Christoph Waltz won the Academy Award for this role, at Cannes, at the Oscars, every major critics award. Quentin Tarantino has said he almost didn't make the film because he couldn't find anyone who could play Landa. And then Christoph Waltz walked in. Landa is the Jew hunter, an SS officer in Nazi-occupied France whose specialty is finding and capturing Jewish people in hiding. He's brilliant. He speaks 4 languages fluently. He is courteous, theatrical, and genuinely delightful to talk to. And he is pure evil. The opening scene of the film is 25 minutes of Landa sitting at a French dairy farmer's table, drinking milk, chatting warmly, and methodically extracting information about a Jewish family hiding under the floorboards. He switches from French to English mid-conversation, so the farmer's family can understand, and explains with a smile why he is so effective at his job. I love rumors. Facts can be so misleading where rumors, true or false, are often revealing. He knows exactly where the family is. He knew before he sat down. The whole conversation was a performance. For 2.5 hours, Landa glides through the film untouchable. He outsmarts everyone. He pivots when plans collapse. He even negotiates a deal with the Allies near the end. Immunity, a life in America, because he has the intelligence to see which way history is turning. And it seems like he might actually walk away clean. And then Aldo Rain. Aldo, Brad Pitt, Tennessee Mountain Man, leader of the Bastards, has spent the entire film carving swastikas into the foreheads of Nazis he let survive, so they can never blend in, never pretend to be something else, never escape what they chose to be. And when Landa thinks he's escaped, when the deal is signed and he's in American custody, Aldo pulls out his knife. Landa protests. "We have a deal." Aldo shrugs. "Yeah, you might have got that deal, but I didn't agree to it." And he carves a swastika into Hans Landa's forehead. Landa screams, and then goes quiet. He will live. He will go to America. He will have his farm in Nantucket. But he will wear what he is, everywhere, forever. Aldo looks at his work. "You know something, Udovich? I think this just might be my masterpiece." The credits roll. That's why it's number 1. Not the most dramatic defeat, not the loudest, the most just. A man who made a career of identifying and marking people for destruction gets marked himself, permanently, by a man with a knife and no interest in paperwork. Hans Landa wanted to disappear into history. Aldo Rain made sure he couldn't. And that is your top 10 most satisfying villain defeats in movie history. From Commodus dying in the sand he tried to control, to Hans Landa wearing his evil on his face for the rest of his days. What ties all of these together isn't just that the villain lost, it's that the defeat meant something. It cost something. It said something about justice, about power, about what happens when small, terrible people are finally held to account. Now, I know some of you have thoughts. Where's Anton Chigurh? Where's Hannibal Lecter? Where's Nurse Ratched? But wait, I had her. Did your favorite make the list? Drop your top 3 in the comments right now. I read everything. And the most interesting ones I'll feature in a follow-up video. If you're new here, this is what we do. We go deep. We take movies seriously. And we argue about them like it matters. Because it does. Subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next one. On the next video, we're ranking movies that are better than the book. And that list is going to start actual wars in the comment section. You do not want to miss it.